Hey everyone, Tim with Collect Jurassic here with another news update covering tons of new Jurassic World Dominion toys on the way. Of course, we've been talking a lot about Wave 1 this year when it came out in April, and we're now starting to talk about Wave 2 and even Wave 3 of toys coming this year from Mattel for Jurassic World in support of the new film Dominion. There's just so many new figures to cover. I have a lot of new images today of toys we've talked about before, as well as some all new reveals. But before we dive into those action figures, let's go ahead and talk about something a little different. Of course, I'm talking about these new Jurassic World Dominion plushies. This nice little 4-pack comes with Velociraptor Blue, Tyrannosaurus, Giganotosaurus, and of course Carnotaurus. And I really, these really were exciting to me when I first discovered them, not because of Blue and Rex, which we have a million plush of those at this point, but Giga and Carno. Carno especially looks incredible, so I want to take a second to talk about them. Of course, Giganotosaurus, the main villain of the new movie, gets a plush here, and I really like what they did with the coloration and of course the little ridge on the back. I had to grab these guys off Amazon because they were so much fun, but here's the official images of them, and you can see that kind of shiny, pleathery effect they have on the snout of Giganotosaurus, as well as that fabric ridge on the back. And of course, the same goes for Carnotaurus. It also has that little pleathery detail on the front, but what I love about Carno is that it really matches the coloration of that old Kenner Carnotaurus. I just think they totally nailed this one, and basically makes the set buying for this Carnotaurus alone. It's the perfect little plush. So yeah, a lot of fun with these 4-pack of Jurassic World Dominion plushies. Next up, we're going to do another little update on this Clash and Crash Hot Wheels set. If you want to know more about what this track looks like, definitely tune into one of my other toy news update videos. But we finally have eyes on the box here, and I love some good box art, especially when it's illustrated. I love how they have Giga ripping apart the track. You can also see Carnotaurus that's also included in the set attacking a vehicle. So not much of a new look at this toy, more so just at the box, but definitely wanted to share it. But let's go ahead and dive into the Mattel Jurassic figures. Starting with the Ferocious Pack Wave 3, this is Ionosaurus, an all-new species. I hope I'm saying that right. Feel free to jump in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong, as always. But Ionosaurus here looks like to be a Ceratopsian figure, one of the many Ceratopsian figures we've gotten from Mattel in the past few years. I can think of Zuniceratops and Pentriceratops just from last year, and even this year looks like we're getting even more new ones with this new one with a very interesting silhouette for the crest. I love those two sharp horns. The nose horn on the snout also is pretty unique in terms of what we've already gotten from Mattel for Ceratopsians. So they're definitely exploring the wide breadth of different I guess species, if you will, of this dinosaur type, which is really cool. And I love this figure's detail as well. I love the ridges on the back you can see here sculpted. It just has a really nice coloration, really dark coloration, with that pop of color on the frill is sort of my favorite personally. But yeah, it's just cool to see Mattel continue to explore new species that some of us haven't heard of. I know I, for one, haven't heard of a lot of these figures. So whenever, or a lot of these dinosaurs, so when these figures come out, it's always sort of a kind of an educational moment for me to learn more about them. And they just keep doing them. I do wish that they would kind of go back and repaint some of the figures they've done, like Zuniceratops for Ceratopsian. I'd love to get another version of that, but I'll never turn my nose up at all new figures, and Ionosaurus is at least an all new figure. The only all-new figure in this wave of Ferocious Pack, so it deserves some love for that alone. I also love how they're doing this two-tone plastic and paint still with a lot of these figures. You can see this one has that little bit of like darker colored legs, and then the back legs are painted a completely different color, and they managed to blend that together, which is really cool. You can also see the all these Dominion figures. It does have the DNA scan code that pops up right above its hips too. But yeah, Ionosaurus, all new figure from Mattel for Ferocious Pack Wave 3. The only truly all new figure, but let's go ahead and jump and look at some of those other figures like Morrs Intrepidus. This is a new version of a figure that we've already gotten, and hopefully a step in making something a little bit more film accurate. If you've seen Jurassic World Dominion, then you know Morrs Intrepidus in that rendition is definitely a lot darker, a lot furrier, and it looks like this new version is at least trying to kind of bridge the visual gap there with the darker tone and those hints of white. It still doesn't have like feathers and kind of fluffiness to it like the film version, but it's at least a step in the right direction. Of course, that previous version of Morrs had crazy vibrant colors that didn't look anything like the movie, and this new one at least has a coloration reminiscent of the film. One thing that's never going to work though is the scale. This thing is giant. You put this next to a human figure and it's just as tall as a human figure, whereas we know in the film Morrs Intrepidus was kind of a tiny little guy. So until they make this figure like hatchling size, maybe in the minis line, this one's just not going to cut it for representing what we see on screen in the film, which is a bummer because it was a new species and I'd love to get a proper toy of it. But at least this one, again, is a step in the right direction color-wise. Here you see that scan code here that pops out above the legs too. And it has all the same articulation as the previous figure. But moving on, we also have a Velociraptor in this wave. Not supposed to be specific to anything from the Raptor Squad or anything we see on screen or in Camp Cretaceous. Just your standard Velociraptor, but it does have a really cool red coloration that's a little bit different. And I love this new Raptor sculpt from Mattel that they've been using. It's perfect. I mean, honestly, it's one of their nicer Raptor sculpts they've ever done. So any excuse to trot that out with a new paint coloration, I really can't complain about. In these renders, you can see just how how they nailed this head sculpt in particular. I think it's interesting how the teeth on these Ferocious Pack versions are a little sharper, a little more defined than even the Hammond Collection versions, which have more articulation, of course, but I do really like the head of these Ferocious Pack Raptors. I think it just looks a little nicer. I love how you can close the mouth too, and it's got that just signature Jurassic kind of vicious stare, but the red coloration here looks great. Of course, these Ferocious Pack figures this year have really been skimping on the paint, so you're not going to see a lot of paint on the nails or anything like that, but at least it does have paint coming all the way down through the tail. You can see that darker shade of red. And, that yellow eye really pops against that shade of red. So this is probably like the third or fourth Raptor using the sculpt that Mattel has put out for Dominion. I know we got a Raptor with the Capture and Crush truck. We got a extreme damage version of this Raptor. If you count the Legacy Collection set, that's another Raptor. So they're definitely getting their use out of this sculpt. But again, it's a nice version of Velociraptor. So who am I to complain? Of course, you can see the scan code popping out of this one above the legs as well. Rounding out this wave is another Atrociraptor figure. I believe this is Atrociraptor Pantera. I'm not going to go too far in depth covering this one because it is a figure that comes with at least one other pack, the Owen Escape pack that we've reviewed on the channel. Looks like that figure is also getting an individual release, which is a great idea because not everyone is able to purchase that Target exclusive Owen Escape set, or maybe they don't even want to purchase it. Maybe they just want the Atrociraptors and not the Carnotaurus or Owen. But if that's the case, you can at least get Atrociraptor Pantera here individually. You can get Atrociraptor Red that also came with that pack individually in the Ferocious Pack wave that comes before this one. So offering Atrociraptors in every wave, apparently. Moving on to Roar Striker. This is a real hard one for me to pronounce, but I'm going to give it my best. Ichthyovenator. This is a all-new figure that's coming for Wave 3 of Roar Strikers. I love this thing. It definitely looks a little bit like Irritator that we've gotten from Mattel. Looks a little bit like Suchomimus even. So obviously those dinosaurs are all related, so it makes sense that this figure would be kind of similar to them too. But I actually really like the colors. I've heard a lot of people ding the colors on this one, but I think they're fun. Definitely missing a little bit of detail in the body. It looks like it's just one solid color. I still like the colors. It's just a little goofy looking, but I think that about all Mattel's sort of crocodilian dinosaurs. Next up, we have Triceratops. Literally have lost count with how many Triceratops we've gotten from Mattel Jurassic World, but again, I do like this paint coloration more than I've liked previous ones. It seems like the previous Triceratops was probably one of my favorites, and now this one with the kind of blue and red contrasting, something about it I really like. I love how the head is a totally different color than the body, but kind of blends in. It's really, really cool. I wish it would have been a little bit more bluer in the body, but I'm going to wait and get this thing in hand to kind of, give my final thoughts. But this inbox shot at least looks nice, if not quite as saturated as I want, but it earns itself as being another trike with this unique paint job. We also have Rahasaurus, and this one I'm actually really excited about. Of course, we have a Rahasaurus already with Wave 1 of Roar Strikers, but this new one has a way darker coloration that I think really, I mean, it probably makes it my favorite version of this figure. I love the white too. It looks like we don't get enough, stark white figures from Mattel. So them using that as a detail here looks really nice. This will actually be the third Rahasaurus we get this year. I'm going to cover the third one coming up in the video here, but the second version is going to be releasing as part of Wave 4 for the Roar Strikers assortment. So moving on to Massive Action, another inbox shot of Ankylosaurus. I know I've covered these figures in videos before, but these inbox shots are always nice to have because they show you kind of what the actual toy is going to look like in box. And Ankylosaurus here looks absolutely massive, right? Looks like it's huge. Every bit as kind of, every bit as chonky as some of the other shots that we saw of renders of this figure. It just looks absolutely massive, which makes sense. It's a Massive Action figure, so for $22, you're gonna get a lot of toy with this one, and it looks like it's got a really nice sort of reminiscent primal attack action with the tail and the head. That's gonna be really cool. Speaking of Massive Action, coming for, I believe this will be Wave 3, is Spinosaurus, another sort of like crocodilian style figure from Mattel. This one almost looks just like an alligator to me, at least in the head it does, but I really like the colors of this one. I like the marbling, what they're doing with the paint. It feels very aquatic. You can see the tail even has like huge ridges and fins on it, so they definitely went through great lengths to make this one feel a little bit more of a water dinosaur. It even looks like it has some really nice scaly textured skin, so very unique take on Spinosaurus from Mattel coming up. Moving on to some Legacy Collection. Now this one is real hard for me to say, so bear with me. Geostoma is a Pteranodon seen at the end of Lost World. It was called Pteranodon, but it was supposed to kind of it was based on Geostoma, so we're getting a figure of that finally. I know I covered it in a previous video, but now we have these really nice photos of it here in the box, here out of the box, and you can see what basically Mattel did was they took the standard Pteranodon they already had and basically added like a new head crest to it, if you will. And then, of course, hit it with a fresh coat of paint to kind of make it align with that Lost World version of the winged reptile. And it works pretty well. One thing that really takes me out of it and kind of kills my excitement is those teeth. I mean, that is just, it makes it look a little goofy. I mean, I was willing to buy teeth on the Jurassic World Pteranodon since they had those in the film. But, for something like Geostoma that, was really just on film, just looked like a regular Pteranodon, I feel like they probably need to get rid of the teeth and maybe that mean glaring eye too. Also don't love this scan code buried in the wing. But anyway, moving on to the next Legacy Collection figure, the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor, the female, I believe. So that's coming for Wave 3 of Legacy Collection. You can see the box shot here. It actually looks pretty good. I definitely am already seeing the paint not going to the tail being an issue. And the unpainted claws is always a bummer. Really want Mattel to get back in the habit of painting those claws. I've heard that maybe it's the DNA code that takes away the kind of like the budget, if you will, of each figure, and that's why we're seeing less paint, which is a bummer to hear, especially with this figure. A little bit more paint would have gone a long way. If you know me, I don't love the jumping raptor, and obviously that's what this figure is based off of. I've never really liked this sculpt, but the paint job is at least pretty decent for Jurassic Park 3 Raptor, but I still think a lot of people are going to be kind of desiring a little bit more. So hopefully we get another Raptor at some point, maybe from Hammond Collection or something like that. We'll just have to wait and see, but that's Legacy Collection Wave 3 coming up from Mattel. Before we head into the grand finale of this toy news update video, I wanted to remind everyone to check out Jurassic World Alive's new Dominion update by downloading the mobile game at the link below in the video caption. And don't forget, Jurassic World Alive is running a sweepstakes to celebrate its 4th anniversary. Participants can enter for a chance to win a trip to Universal Parks and Resorts in Hollywood or Orlando. There's a Gleam link down below in the description box with details on how to enter, as well as full details and rules. Now headed back into the toy updates, let's talk about the Capture Copter pack, something I've talked about previously in other videos when we just had the box art here, which, I mean, I do love this box art. I love the Rhodosaurus attacking the copter in the Dominions, or in the BioSyn Sanctuary. Love that stuff, but now we can actually see the toys inside, which is kind of the highlight, one of the highlights of this video. I mean, you can see this toy is incredible. We have that helicopter just like the one in the movie, as well as a dinosaur and a human figure to kind of play along with it. And the copter itself looks like it has a lot of fun interactivity. You can see here it's shooting missiles at Rhodosaurus from this like fold down door that it has. Looks like that door and all the pieces can break away as well, which is a fun little bit of interactivity. Obviously in the movie the helicopter doesn't crash, but they're making the toy have some of that famous dino damage. There must be a button or something that presses that makes the wings, the cockpit, and one of the side doors fly out. You can see Kayla inside hanging on for dear life. Also, that flip down door I mentioned earlier kind of flips down to show the firing cannon, which, you know, I think kids get after, but us adult collectors want something a little more film accurate. So I kind of like how you can flip the door back up and it looks like just kind of the standard BioSyn helicopter. It even has the BioSyn logo. I'm not sure any of these photos show that pretty clearly, but here you can see the Rhodosaurus up close. Again, these are renders, so it's never too sure kind of how the actual final toy will pan out, but I do really love the coloration on this render anyway. You can see it also has some extreme damage, which makes me think that this set will probably be exclusive, but we'll just have to wait and see. So stay tuned for updates about kind of where this one will show up. But here's the full breakdown, and here you have a really nice look at that BioSyn logo. They really nailed it. I think that totally makes the set. I know I've complained on some of my toy reviews that they don't show the BioSyn logo enough on some of these vehicles, so them putting on the helicopter is definitely a step in the right direction. It's perfect. It totally makes this set. You can also see it comes with Kayla as well. Moving on to the this is the Spinosaurus extreme damage set that a lot of people have been looking forward to. It's got 3 different dinosaurs in it. Spinosaurus, of course, Albertosaurus, and a Velociraptor tiger. And we're going to be able to actually take a look at this fierce battle pack in detail with some shots of the toys inside. You can see Spinosaurus in all of her glory, a wild paint job, right? All those different sort of textured patterns layering over each other. A Velociraptor tiger with extreme damage, which is the one Velociraptor we've been missing from Mattel. They've released all the other named Velociraptors so far, and also a really cool Albertosaurus repaint that we'll go into with more detail later. But first up, Spinosaurus, we can take a look at that extreme damage it has, that flap down skin, similar to the previous version of extreme damage Spinosaurus, or I think it was called just regular old battle damage back then. That previous one that was so rare, we're getting this repaint that has the exact same damage feature, that skin flap, that rib cage that pops open, and then inside there's like this gory, bloody ball that spins with actual liquid blood inside. Totally gnarly stuff that I know kids totally get after too. So that's always kind of a fun novelty on the extreme damage functionality we have in a lot of the different toys on Spinosaurus. It really is something really special. And in addition to that, we also have the button on the back of the head that makes Spinosaurus snap its jaws. So a little bit of added playability there, and you know that's all built around some pretty cool neck articulation, as well as articulation in the arms and the legs and the tail too. So great playability and some posability. And as far as Albertosaurus goes, it also has a pretty unique action gimmick with bones that flip down and squishy organs inside. But really the star here, I think, is the coloration of Albertosaurus, this sort of charcoaly frosted white. Just looks really cool. Something very different from Mattel that we haven't gotten thus far. So that's what I'm really excited about in this set. Probably more than Spinosaurus, but altogether, it's a great set. Again, we get that Velociraptor we've been missing, an all-new take on Albertosaurus that's really dark, and of course, Spinosaurus, always a very popular species for Jurassic collectors, I feel like. I love the scan tag that comes out of the Albertosaurus's neck, right? That's kind of interesting. So, pretty exciting set. Definitely one of the more anticipated ones coming up. But yeah, as you can see, tons of new Jurassic World Dominion toys still coming, still getting fresh looks at those for Wave 2 and Wave 3. I expect a a lot of stuff to hit this summer in the next couple months, but probably the end wave really is going to start hitting closer to late fall, kind of October heading into November for that holiday shopping season before we're on to 2023 and all the Jurassic World toys on the way for that year. But stay tuned, more on that. We're not going to cover that today, but I hope you enjoyed this little news update. Again, I'm Tim Collect Jurassic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.